So if you're entering into a low carb world, this diet choice seems like a no-brainer. Keto versus carnivore, keto's got to be the winner, right? Why would you choose something so restrictive like carnivore when keto allows you to do so much more?
All the desserts.
All the desserts. In this video, we are going to talk about the top 10 reasons why we chose a carnivore diet over a keto diet and why it works for us. I'm JJ, I'm a life coach, and I eat mostly meat.
I'm Eric, I'm a novelist, and I eat meat and microbes.
Number one for me, why did I choose carnivore? Well, keto wasn't even a consideration for me. I've tried keto before, and I got no results. That's right, no results. Of course, I came to keto and carnivore for weight loss. That was the number one thing. And when I did keto, I didn't notice any weight loss. And when I did carnivore, I didn't notice any weight loss. For 7 months, I did not lose weight. However, I got massive results within just a few days of starting carnivore. And that was enough to keep me going. And those results were reduced inflammation. Within a few days of starting carnivore, eliminating everything else from my diet, my allergies got incredibly better. And at this point in time, my eyes felt like they were burning out of my head for about 5 years straight. It was intense, and I couldn't wear any makeup. I couldn't wash my face, and I'd had to be careful about shampoos. And it was just constant state of just not even itchiness, just burning out of myself.
You couldn't even wear jewelry.
That's right. I could not even wear my wedding band.
She was allergic to gold, which was a convenient thing, actually.
Hey, wait a minute. Yeah. No, I would break out in rashes from wearing jewelry. And that's how sensitive I was. My skin was sensitive. My eyes were sensitive. I was just plain old inflamed. Within those few days of starting carnivore, when I saw those things being reduced dramatically, I knew that even though I wasn't getting the weight loss that I really wanted, that my body was healing and that inflammation was being released.
So the second reason that we chose carnivore over keto related to the first one, where JJ had no results, I had temporary results on keto. So I have been doing keto on and off for, I don't know, 20 years maybe? I don't even know.
Before our daughter was born.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, before that. And every time I did it with any consistency, I would lose weight. It wasn't even hard.
Oh, it made me so mad. You just think keto and pounds would start to fall away.
But it was temporary because I could not sustain keto. And I can sustain carnivore. And it's way easier, even though it seems way more restrictive.
Yeah, it's kind of paradoxical.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in a minute.
Keto was an issue for me because of my macro mania. Like I was always trying to keep track of the macros.
Trying to keep track of the macaroni.
Well, kind of trying to make sure those carbs were low enough and that the fat was high enough. Like I said, when I would do keto, this was an issue for me trying to track that. I do not like tracking, and I don't think tracking is a long-term solution for me. I don't want to track things my entire life. But when you would do it and I wouldn't because I never got any results, I was still trying to make sure that your broccoli was covered in enough cheese, that it would hit those macros just right. So it was not something that I enjoyed doing, and it was not, sort of like you said, it wasn't sustainable for me either.
The fourth reason is, I'm going to call it healing number one. And carnivore healed my IBS and keto did not. And I had some long stretches of keto, and I always had my gut issue throughout because I can't have those carby foods that I was eating. It doesn't matter whether it was kale or broccoli or sweet potatoes. My gut did not like it.
No.
And it was only when I eliminated all that I finally had resolution to that problem.
So number 5 for me is simplicity. And as I mentioned, I am the primary food preparer in the household, although you do a lot more on carnivore than you used to. And so going into a store and doing keto shopping, kind of complicated, right? I'm looking at the macros on everything. But even if you've got that sorted down to a science, it is not as easy as walking over to the meat department, filling up with some steaks, putting some ground beef in there, a little bit of chuck, whatever, and walking out.
Well, you might stop in the soft drink aisle for some Topo Chico.
Oh, that's true.
But or and some eggs.
Yes.
But it's very simple. And you don't ever have to look up the label for net carbs.
Never.
Because you don't have labels that list carbs.
And cooking too. I mean, at first it's a little strange to be like, there's no side dish with this.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And some carnivores do a couple different types of meat for a little variety. We don't tend to do that. And at first it was a little strange, but now to just cook up some beef, which is usually pretty hands off, by the way. Again, simple, simple, simple.
So the sixth reason, I'm going to call it healing number 2, because carnivore eliminated my acid reflux, which was a plague of my life since before I was 20. Keto never did, but carnivore and the quality of life gain that alone is actually worth doing carnivore.
Number 7 is energy boost. So I know that when people go into deep ketosis, they have experienced energy and mood. Again, I did not see those results at all. So for me, when I went on carnivore, those were some results, again, that I saw fairly quickly. It kept getting better, but right away I saw my dips in the afternoon were gone. That was an immediate response, very, very quickly. And so for me, who suffered from hormonal imbalances for 35 years that led to fatigue and brain fog and malaise and melancholy, it was transformational to have that within a few weeks.
I'm glad you had the energy boost because something got done.
Wait a minute, what?
because I did not get the energy boost from keto or carnivore until recently. I finally have uncovered that new layer from carnivore after 2.5 years. So the healing isn't just immediate. It's not instant. And I wasn't sure if I was ever going to get it, but I never gave up on it because I knew it was out there. It does raise the point that while we're debating whether keto or carnivore is better, it's really not a debate. It's really just what we had to discover for ourselves because we did experimentation.
Yeah.
I would say that very quickly, the afternoon energy dip was gone because I wasn't having the carb crash.
Yeah.
Obviously.
The napping was greatly reduced in our household.
So that was great. And a corollary to that, which isn't really one of our lists, is that satiation, not being hungry all the time.
Yeah.
I had some leveling of energy, but I didn't get that notch up until much more recently.
So had I stayed on keto longer, I might have seen some of those results, but I didn't.
That's the thing, is that if you're going to do some sort of diet, either for weight loss or any other reason, you actually need to see a result eventually. The sooner the better.
Yeah.
And so if you're doing something and you're not losing weight, but you're also not getting any healing, it's hard to go through the deprivation.
Yeah.
Because you don't feel like you're making any progress. The beauty with carnivore is that it gave us some early wins, and that's what builds the promise for future gains as well.
Yeah.
So what number are we on here?
8.
I call this one autopilot. And it is a phase after you get sort of over the initial healing phase of carnivore, which has some discomforts possibly. And you get into that satiety, you get into this mode where it is just easy to sustain. It just glides along like a kayak on a clear, unrippling lake. It's just autopilot. And I have never had that experience when trying to do an intentional healthy diet. The only time I ever had that experience was when I was eating whatever I wanted. But it was not that smooth because I was always having gut pain and acid reflux.
And having to take naps.
And not feeling healthy and not looking healthy. And then therefore not feeling good about myself. So there's no autopilot down sad. There's only straight into the rocks.
number 9, and this one's kind of sounds funny, but I really want you to think about this. I'm calling it nuts, nuts, nuts. On keto, we discovered the joy of various types of nuts, including macadamias and cashews. And oh my gosh, we had the big Costco bulk containers of these things that were out on the counter. So every time I went by, I'd grab a handful because they're healthy and they're allowed on keto, right?
Yeah.
Now, I told you I was obsessing about macros earlier, but somehow these nuts did not make it into my macro count.
Well, they don't really count because they're small.
Yeah, you're just having a few, but you have a few again and again and again and again. And that was definitely doing no favors for me. In addition to, I went gluten-free more than a decade ago. Almond flour was my friend very early on. So we were doing drive-bys with the nuts. Let me not speak for you, drive-bys with the containers of nuts, and then having our almond flour desserts.
Do you recall that we had we had the mac nuts, we had the cashews, we had almonds, we had walnuts, and we also had a little container of a chocolate chips that you could put in your mixed bowl of nuts. And then you'd have a little bit of a something with the nuts.
But it was only a few chocolate chips, so...
At first.
Actually, at first it was the sugar-free chocolate chips. And then somehow, I don't know how, yeah, that carb creep is real, whether it's the chocolate chips or the nuts. So for me, nuts were a very big problem. And I didn't even realize the issues with like oxalates and things in these things. Like I didn't even consider those to be an issue. The almonds are just
chock full of them.
Right. So for me, that is not a great way to live addicted to cashews.
Carb creep is really the final number 10. It is the carb monkey. For me, keeping them in the diet, if I was going to do keto that was only carbs from broccoli and lettuce greens, it wouldn't only be that, because I would have a balsamic vinaigrette on my salad, and that has sweetness, and that would keep the sweet craving awake and alert. And that's when the little chocolate chips start to get more and more in my bowl of nuts, and then they become the sweet ones. And then we had the almond flour chocolate chip cookie bar recipe that you found or invented. And then I took over making them because, one, I wanted to make sure we never ran out. And two, I needed to be in charge of the chocolate chip dose that went into that batch. The recipe called for like a half a cup of unsweetened. And by the time I was done making it, it was 2 full cups of the full sweetened chocolate chips went in there. And those cookie bars were good.
They were good.
I don't think we were anywhere near ketosis by the end of that. And I made probably 50 batches that.
Oh, you had it down to a science. Yeah.
I could, and it wasn't even a chore. My like the whole carb craving mechanism in my mind took over, and all of a sudden I would like must make cookies, and then my body would just do the whole thing with efficiency.
Oh, so good.
I knew I had every movement from setting the oven to mixing things up was just efficient, and all of a sudden new cookies are ready to go.
Ready. And you would cut them because I would cut them into smaller squares.
She would cut them into like 16ths. That's no good. One pan is like maybe 12 at the tops, maybe 9. Because the tradition was 1 cookie after dinner.
Yep.
And I wanted to make sure I got a sufficient cookie and not some tease cookie. Because I'm, being keto and keeping that carb thing alive, my whole day is built and designed and focused around satisfying the carb monkey. And this is why carnivore is better for me.
Yeah.
because I eliminate all of that and the artificial sweeteners, and I can go day after day after day, and I don't even think about sweets.
So you don't feel deprived.
I feel no deprivation whatsoever, but I had to get it out of my mouth in order for my brain to rewire and put the cookie making zombie away so that I could focus not on what I was eating every day, but on living my life. The only thing I can equate it to was way back in pre-dating her days when I smoked for a while, and how that quickly became like how I designed my day. And looking back on it, I just go, what a waste. And I don't want to be in that. I want to be in control of what I'm doing and deciding what I'm spending my time and efforts on. So those are 10 reasons why carnivore works better for us than keto, which isn't to say that no one should do keto.
No, not at all. We are definitely not dogmatic, and we really feel that anyone who is moving into the proper human diet sphere is doing amazing things for their health. And we hope that they get all the healing that they want.
In fact, if you can do keto with 20 or 30 grams of carbs per day and it's working, well, good, do it. I would love to be able to do that. The only carbs we really have in our diet now, that aside from whatever's in the muscle meat, is what's ever in fermented dairy.
Yes.
And a little bit of sauerkraut because we're getting the microbes. But I will tell you that the fermented dairy is the opposite of sweet. And sauerkraut is not called sweet kraut for a reason. So nothing about it makes me want to eat sweets, and nothing about those bother my gut or give me acid reflux.
I was just going to say that I haven't noticed any increase in inflammation or anything like that.
Yeah. If it did, gone.
It would be gone in an instant. And we have small doses. I mean, we're not just cramming down the sauerkraut.
Because we view it the way that Sean Amara talks about it. It's a condiment, not a side dish.
Yes.
And as long as it's treated that way, then it stays that way. But honestly, there's only so much sauerkraut and fermented dairy yogurt that I want to eat in a given day. So it's not troublesome for me.
No. So on the surface, it seems like carnivore is so restrictive. Why would you choose to do that way of eating when you can have so many more options with keto? And again, like Eric said, if that works for you, if keto works for you, fabulous. Yet for us, sustainability is really around the carnivore diet and eating mostly meat. There's just no food noise. Like you were mentioning, we aren't building our days around food. We're satiated. We don't feel deprived. We don't have cravings. And everything is really pretty simple.
Now, I have a question.
Yeah.
If we're doing carnivore so great, wouldn't we be in ketosis? And wouldn't that mean that it's keto?
That is a question, isn't it? Is carnivore a subset of keto?
Can be.
It can be.
But not necessarily.
Yeah.
And it really depends on the level of fat that one is eating. And I know when I test most mornings, I am very barely into ketosis on my Keto Mojos. It's an off-brand Keto Mojo that I got from Temu. No, it's a...
Hey, Bub, you want to buy...
I go into ketosis probably overnight, and then I have breakfast, which is steak and eggs, and then I'm just kind of right at very low. I'm not in deep state of ketosis at this point. If for some reason I wanted to do like an extra kick of anti-inflammatory work, I could choose to go into deeper ketosis by altering my macros some.
Yes, altering macros. And also there are a couple other levers that can be pulled. You know, if you do a really hard workout, that'll put you into ketosis. If I do some more extended fasting, that'll throw me into deeper ketosis. And we do choose to pull those levers sometimes.
We have conclusively explained why we've chosen carnivore while at the same time not discouraging anyone from doing keto if that's what works for you. And in fact, we did a really excellent video where we said carnivore was step 10 for weight loss.
Yes.
If you were really interested in losing weight, we actually recommend certain steps way before starting carnivore. And so we're going to link to that here. So there's a bonus one. And this one is maybe trumps all the others.
Oh, really?
And that is mental health.
Yeah, life does not feel like it's worth living a whole lot when you have such poor mental health. And we both have suffered from some mental health issues and definitely brain fog. And so to be able to move through the day with enthusiasm and a love of life, it's priceless.
And the beauty of that one is keto does it for you too. So with that,
Every day stronger.
every day more blessed.